Everyone, this is Nia, and today I'm just going to do some very simple and relaxing doodle of, stones. This is super simple with no sketching required, so let's get straight to the colors. This is Vermilion by Holbein, Burnt Umber by Holbein, Sepia by Holbein, Of Titanium by Daniel Smith, Indigo by Schmincke, and Hansa Yellow Medium by Daniel Smith. For some added textures and doodles, I'm going to be using my Faber Castel watercolor colored pencils. These are just very cheap hobby grade ones, or you can use any colored pencils you have. I used a dark blue and a dark brown, but you can always mix and match with other colors as well. This is just a fun doodle that you can interpret however you want. I'm also going to use this white pen. This is unbranded, but any white pen will do. You can even use other additional mediums to experiment if you'd like. Before I apply the colors, I just want to wet all my paint so all the colors will be ready and activated, and it'll be much easier for me to pick up these pigments. I'll also have some colors mixed into my palette for easy access, just to make the painting process much more pleasurable. I personally love buff titanium for its light and neutral color, so I'm going to be mixing it into the different hues. So just as an example here, even if I want to create an orange from vermilion and yellow, I also mix in some buff titanium, so the tonality of the orange is still cohesive with the colors surrounding it. And with the colors that I've already pre-mixed on my palette, I personally just like to add other pigments. This will just change the ratio of certain color mixtures instead of changing them completely. And this is just another trick in order to make a cohesive palette. For this first doodle, I want most of the colors to be fairly light and warm, and I'm going to use the blues as well as the darker tones for accents. I just wanted to mindlessly paint some random shapes and different colors to doodle. For this one, I want the shapes to look more geometric, as if these stones are broken from larger pieces. And I like to also play with the sizes as well. This doodle is actually inspired by one of my paintings that I did, which is this stone step scenery. I'm not sure if you've seen it, as I'm voiceovering this. It's supposed to be published a month before this one, I guess. But anyway, as I was painting the texture on the stone steps, I thought that this would be such an interesting texture to doodle on, and it'll be something different compared to the usual oval doodles that I usually do. So this doodle might seem so random to some of you, but I guess inspiration can come from anywhere. By the way, even if I'm painting this with specific color combinations and color mixtures, don't let this stop you from experimenting yourself. Feel free to try other color combinations that might spark your interest, or even other ideas for shapes and even different combinations of mediums for different textures. If you do have other fun ideas, feel free to share it in the comments, so maybe it can also inspire others. And yeah, I'll just keep painting on these stones, and I'll get back to you once I'm ready to paint the next page. I'm not going to paint right to the very edge of my paper. I just want to create a loose frame for this one, and I just find it looks less planned and more organic. And while I wait for the first doodle to dry, I'm going to doodle the base for the next page. For this one, I want to use similar soft tones, so I will be adding buff titanium to most of the colors, but I also want to include slightly cooler tones, and in terms of the shape, I want to create soft pebbles so the shapes are rounded instead of geometric like before. So I'll just keep painting more of these pebbles until I have a good amount, like the first one. I'm not going to talk too much in this video, just enjoy watching the paint flow and the page slowly getting filled with different colors. After I'm done with the pebbles, I'm going to let them dry and move back to the first doodle. I feel like I want to extend the frame a bit more, so I'm just going to add a few more around the edges. Then I'm going to use whatever I've already have on my palette and start adding some shadows underneath these tones just to make them pop. I'm not going to do this for every single one of them, just the main large ones. I also like to add some darker values on top of these stones so the surface looks a bit uneven and textured. I'm only using a thin consistency when I'm painting on these textures so I can still doodle things on top. If you don't want to doodle anything on top of this, you can also just exaggerate these textures a bit more. You can increase the contrast in value by darkening certain spots so those cracks look deeper, and just exaggerate it in general. Next, with my white pen, I'm just going to add some dots to add a bit more texture. If you want, you can also doodle with your white pen, but since I've painted the base color fairly light, I don't think that the white is going to stand out as much as I want it to. So this is what I've decided to use the white for. I feel like some stones still look too plain, so I'm going to add some pencil doodles on top. I like to create lines and marks and also some leaves just because I love drawing and painting them. I personally love the texture of colored pencils with watercolors, but if you want, you can also use other mediums or even just use your watercolors to paint on top. I feel like I have enough going on here and I just feel like I want to move on to the next one. Personally, I don't want to overdo the doodles either. Even on some of the stones, I just decided to enhance the texture by drawing edge lines following the uneven plane. So I'm just going to move on to the pebbles, and at any time, if I get any other ideas or I just want to add to the first doodle, you can always go back to it anyway. For these pebbles, I want to create some smooth, curvy lines over them. I'm going to do this with watercolors and also my white pen. And as for the colors, you can use darker versions of the same base, or you can also use different colors altogether. This was personally so satisfying to do because I just love painting random lines, and I think this also gives a good stylistic representation of water going over pebbles. with my white pen, I am going to add the same type of lines, and I also add some dotted and dashed lines. You can also doodle other things with your white pen or other colored pens. Lastly, I'm going to add some pencil doodles just like the previous one. I used my blue pencil and my brown, but personally I kind of wish the blue was more muted, but this was the darkest blue I had, so I just kind of rolled with it. I was still enjoying the process at this point, and I'll just keep adding more until I'm happy with the amount. I feel like we're close to being finished. I'm really happy with the movement from the wavy lines of these pebbles, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed painting it, or at least find it relaxing to watch. If you did, please consider subscribing and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like usual, the list of tools as well as my social media links will be in the description box. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye!